Good. You're a busy man. I have tons of stuff to talk about in a short period of time.
Uh-huh.
And how are you doing? You look a little busy too.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But it's a good crazy. You know what I mean? I ain't
uh,
complaining.
yeah, yeah. I do have a number for Talkspace if you need to talk to someone. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I may need that number, bro.
Now, everyone has talked to you once in their life, so I have talked to you before too.
Okay.
Yeah, I met you at the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival in 2016. I ran up and talked to you. You were hounded by some guy who was interviewing you with some tough questions, and you were really good.
Okay.
You were in and out, but right afterwards, I said you're a comedian because I saw you at the Man Music Center
Oh,
where you were with Angelique Kidjo and Susanna
yeah,
Baca and someone screaming up there to
yeah,
um, that she wanted to marry you and have your
yeah,
baby and stuff.
yeah. Look, they had to sneak me out of that center afterwards
Why?
because the woman came backstage and she was crazy.
Really?
She would, yeah. Oh man, yeah. I met her once before when I played in DC, and she was telling me how one of my albums, and I felt bad for her because she said her mom died, and it must have triggered something in her because when her mom died, she was listening to one of my albums, "Tell God's Will," over and over and over again, and it got her through. But when I saw her again at the Man Center, man, that was crazy because she wouldn't leave, and then she started making a scene, and they snuck me out and put me in the van and told me to lay on the back seat so she wouldn't see me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It was entertaining to the audience. We kind of thought it was like a comedy skit.
Right.
And you were
Right.
really like breaking character. You had this whole setup with the visuals and
Yeah.
everything was
Yeah.
timed out and all of a sudden you're stopping and
Right.
you're chit-chatting with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because at first I thought it was cute at first. I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's sweet. Thank you for that. But then when she came backstage, man,
It's
and like I said, I'd met her before, so I was like, oh, okay, hey, how you doing? But then it just kind of, I think her mom's death like really triggered a psychotic thing in her, which is a shame, because she was a nice person, but
you haven't seen her ever again.
no, no, no.
We knew that people, during COVID time period, that downtime, that people were going to pop out with some creative projects. And I don't know of anyone other than you that is like, like one project after another is just all unfolding. And I don't think anyone had that much going on at one time for it just to be hitting one at a time. I feel like I have a lot of questions to ask you, and I know I have a short period of time. But yeah, but let's start with Perry Mason. You're on your second season. Your first soundtrack is amazing. You're at a time period when I was where Perry Mason, Gunsmoke, Bonanza.
Right.
Like we only had 5 channels or 3 channels.
Right. I'm about to say 5. No, dude, I think it was like 3.
Yeah, it was like 3, and so it was a.
Because we never counted PBS.
No, because it was always blurred out. You can't see it. You had to take the antenna outside and shake it around to see if you can get it, pick it up.
Right.
But with Perry Mason, it was weird how one, did he ever smile? Did you ever remember him smiling ever?
What's funny about that, man? I've been on some Zoom calls with Matt, man, and when you see Matt in person, he is the total opposite of the character. This dude is like all over the place, cracking jokes, got a lot of energy, and I'm like, that's the mark of a great actor. Because, dude, you had me fooled.
Yeah. I saw him in other things, and I'm like, wow, he had to really scale it down.
Right.
But
right.
But I think Perry Mason screwed up the whole judicial system. No one wants to do jury duty. But before, when Perry Mason was there, you're like, oh my God, this is going to unfold. He's going to crack the case right there, and he's going to solve the crime. And everyone wants to be in jury duty to see that. But
don't you remember that it became a verb almost? People kept saying, we're waiting for the Perry Mason moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird how the beat of that kind of series, like we're talking about Gunsmoke and all that was slow. Like you know, it's now everything's rapid fire and fast, 50 million beats. There's pauses almost in every single sentence of or thought for each person. Andy Griffith's show is a good example where you're like, do they even talk on this show? It's real quiet. Okay, so you're wrapping up. We're going real fast. We're wrapping up the Spike Lee's HBO documentary on New York. It premieres in the fall. It's called New York City Epicenter 9/11, 2011 and a half. I'm assuming it's about 20 years after the 9/11 time period.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I mean, yeah, it is. It's 8 hours of a documentary, and actually they kind of screened it, you know, on the anniversary of 9/11. They had like a limited viewing of it, I think, just to celebrate, not to celebrate, but just to mark the anniversary of that event. You know, listen, I've always said this. I think Spike doesn't get enough credit for being a great documentarian that he is. You know, I've always been amazed at his documentaries, how deep he goes and how he organizes all of the thoughts and ideas, you know, and this one is no different. There's a lot of stuff to cover when you start talking about from 9/11 to COVID-19. And he does it over an 8-hour period, and it's really remarkable, you know, when you watch it. I think it's something that's probably, you know, going to end up in the classroom at some point because it's so detailed.
You know, we were just talking about Perry Mason. So we had 3 channels. So the America had a collective interest. Everyone was watching the same show. Now everyone is spread out. Like there is, you know, entertainment all over the place. People are not watching the same stuff. They're not seeing the same thing. So this 9/11, everyone has such a short-term memory as to what happened. Just like the thing that happened here in January 6th, that you almost have to show a documentary to say, look, this really happened. Like it's like, people, this happened, you know.
Right. Well, that's the thing that's interesting about it, you know, for those of us that lived through it, you know, we remember how horrible that whole period was, because it wasn't just a couple of days or whatever. I mean, you know, I remember feeling sick to my stomach for a long time, you know, after that. And I guess we've gotten to this point now where we are the same as the people who experienced all the riots in the 60s when we were growing up, you know, because those things seem like such a far-fetched notion for me when I was a kid growing up. And then when we got to the 80s, I was like, wow, man, that's something different. And then now I'm looking at this with these kids, you know, and it's interesting because I'm, you know, my opera's here at the Met, and there's some young kids in the production, and I think about them and I go, man, they have no clue about any of that. You know, they don't have any relationship to it. But that's the reason why it's important to do these documentaries. You know, it's important to give kids a place to go and at least to get a sense of it. You know, I don't think they're ever going to really feel what we felt experiencing it live, but at least they could get a sense of how devastating it was.
Yeah, my birthday is 9/11, so I was gonna go up to New York. I had a bed and breakfast set up, and I'm so selfish. I still remember this story. Like when the first tower went down, I'm like, we're still gonna go. It's gonna be the safest place in America. Let's go there because it'll be fine. When the second tower went down, I went, you better cancel, see if we get our money back. like that was a very selfish experience.
You know what I remember? My mom said, turn on the TV. And I said, but what channel? She said, any channel. Just turn on the TV. That's how crazy it was.
Yeah, I worked at CD Now, if you can remember that company. We had 3 people who were born on the same day in my same department. We were all chit-chatting amongst each other. And, you know, by 11 o'clock, we were out the door and there was a whole different world, you know.
Right, exactly.
I don't have a problem with Spike Lee. I love Spike Lee. I just think this Bitcoin thing, he needs have a discussion. I think his documentaries are fine, but it's not new money. It's something else.
It is.
But I wanted to talk to you actually about the Five Blood, the movie. You were available for interviews for that soundtrack, and I wanted to get a hold of you really bad because I just saw Spike Lee's Masterclass, and he was talking about what he does with you, where when the movie starts,
Yeah.
or the idea or the concept of it, I guess you're providing, or you guys are having discussions about musical cues, I guess, for the main characters. So,
Well, yeah, well, he talks to me, he just gives me a heads up. I mean, we were at the Oscars, man, just celebrating everything that was happening with Black Klansmen. And he goes, all right, bro, I'm out, you know, I'm flying over. I forgot where they were shooting. He said, I'm flying over to so-and-so. And, you know, I'm gonna send you the script. I'm like, dude, you're not even gonna take a break.
I know.
You know, but that's the way he works. That's the way he gets excited.
Yeah, well, it was weird because I thought, I got the soundtrack before I saw the movie. I'm
Uh-huh.
ripping through it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk to Terence Blanchard. We're going to talk about this. I really thought we were going to have this Peter and the Wolf experience where these characters are popping up, and then the theme of it, and it was very West Wing. It was very political, patriotic sounding, and I'm like, where's this connection? Then when I saw the movie, I went, okay, it's all making sense to me.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Right.
very
Well,
cool. It was
no, well, that was the idea. I mean, you know, for me, I've with that movie, with Red Tails, with Miracle at St. Anna, I've always tried to, and I know it sounds corny, but I really believe it, man. When you run into guys who've actually been in combat and you hear their stories and they tell you how real it is and you start to experience it through their eyes, you just, whenever you have a project like that, man, you just want to say thank you to those dudes, man, because I don't think the general public really truly understands what it is that they do, you know, putting their lives on the line for our safety here back at home. And, you know, for a lot of those guys, especially in Vietnam, we know those of us who are old enough, we know what they came back to, you know, and they didn't come back to the hero's welcome that they deserved, you know. So for me, I just want to write something that kind of honors their contribution.
Yeah, it's weird. Like with 9/11, once we accidentally or on purposely bombed Al Jazeera's news location, we did a shutdown. So America never got a day-to-day news update of like, okay, we're here now. This is what we're doing. If by
Right.
chance that we had that opportunity, I don't think this war would have lasted 20 years. We would have said, okay, this
Right.
is ridiculous. We can
Right.
see what's going on. How can you have this multimedia world and not know what this war is about? No one
Well,
can
look,
explain it. Yeah.
no, listen, man. I had a friend of mine who I grew up with who really wanted to be a jazz musician. Well, I shouldn't say he. It's not that he wanted to be a jazz musician. He really had a fondness for it, and he was playing saxophone. But he went to college. He went to West Point and graduated and became a general. And he was over in Desert Storm. And he came back and he was telling me stories, and he just made it plain to me. He said, "Listen, T," he said, "we were always under constant threat." He said, "We couldn't cross the street." Like he said, and he pointed, he said, to another house across the street. He said, "We couldn't do that because at any moment you could be shot and killed."
Yeah.
You know, and I went, wow, that's the conditions you were living under day to day, you know, for extended periods of time. People don't get that. You know,
No.
we walk around and we get upset, you know, when our Uber Eats is late, you know. You know, so to really understand that, and for me just to say thank you, I try to write music that really tries to honor, you know, their sacrifice.
Yeah, I agree. So you have this little thing going on at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. Just a small event. um, now, I was going to make a joke about it, but okay, 138 years. That okay. My question is, I mean, I applaud you. I think it's fantastic, but why? We knew that the
Well, you
opera.
know, yeah, I know the question that's a Met question, and I'm gonna tell you. Yesterday, when I did this interview, I was being interviewed by CBS. They brought out this ledger um, that the records started in 1919, and I didn't see how far it went. I didn't go through the whole thing because I didn't want to really touch it that much because it's history, you know.
Yeah.
But in the ledger, man, you see a bunch of females' names of operas that were denied. And when you read the reasons why, it's just very elitist. And then what really just sent me over the edge was when I saw comments about William Grant Still's operas. He had submitted 3 operas to them, one in 1920, one in 1935, and another one in 1939. And I can't remember which one of the last two this comment was made, but there were two separate comments that were just outrageous. One of them said, you know, it seems to be song-like and amateurish, you know, not suitable for the Met stage. And another one called them dilettantes who don't deserve to be at the Metropolitan. And it was funny because, you know, when we were reading all of these comments, you know, the guy who was interviewing me, he said, man, these guys are taking themselves a little seriously, because in all of the comments, they write Metropolitan. It's like, but this is the ledger for the Metropolitan. You know, there's just this elitist air and everything, you know. So I can't answer the question about 138 years, but if I had to guess, it would be because of arrogance, ignorance, and an elitist attitude like that. Because opera initially was music that was made for the masses, you know, and I think it lost its way along the way, where people started to act like in their art, you know, the public should come to them as opposed to them going to the public.
Yeah, wow. But you know, I mean, I'm 56, so you know, all my life I knew that there was a public outcry about changing the dynamics of opera, how it's, you know, it's lost its way, it hasn't connected emotionally to people. When you say arrogance, I'm going to throw in racism there too, a little.
Of course,
Okay.
of course. I mean,
All
yeah,
right.
that's the big one. And you know, racism and misogyny. You know, because I was shocked to see so many female names. You know, because if you listen to them just based on what they programmed, you would assume that there were no females who were interested in writing opera, and that wasn't the case.
Well, I watched a couple segments on YouTube about the St. Louis production, and it's fantastic. I don't. It's a biography of Fire Shut Up in My Bones. It's Charles M. Blow, and the sets, the visuals, the intensity is amazing. I cried at the promo because I figured out what the main plot was, and I have friends that were had absentee fathers. I have two guys that told me stories in their life where they had absentee fathers, and with that, they became prey, more or less,
Yes.
to adults who
Right.
were aware of their vulnerability and kind of took advantage of that, which gave them a severe development of guilt
Yes.
and anger and distrust for adults. And you know, to reconcile that, both of these gentlemen are African American. That's a dirty secret, and that was told to me in confidence.
Yeah.
So when I saw the one scene where they're standing together, I mean, I just started bawling. I was like,
Yeah.
this is real life pain here that you're talking about.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this story. You know, I wanted to do it because it is a dirty secret, not only in the African American community, but our community as Americans. You know, this has been going on, you know, with a lot of families, and it needs to be exposed, and people need to find help and get help. You know, and the other part of the reason why I wanted to do this is because Charles is such a success. You know, his success is a testament to his resilience and strength. And it lets people know, when you see the opera and then you think about him in his current state, that anybody can overcome anything if you put your heart, mind, and soul to it. You know, you have to find help and have the courage to just maintain, you know, whatever, you know, treatment or process you need to go through to get you to make yourself better. And when we had the premiere in St. Louis, you know, I didn't want, you know, Charles to see the rehearsal. I wanted him to be surprised by the entire thing. And the night of the premiere, man, I remember thinking that was such a bad move. I'm like, maybe he should have been here. But when he came to the premiere and he saw it, I asked him if we were okay afterwards. He said, yeah, we're good. We're good. He says, because I realized that's not me anymore. And that was a very profound statement for me. And I went, see, this is why I wanted to do this. Because then he went on to write a piece about it. And then he wrote about, you know, his reaction to it. And hopefully for people like your friends, this can be a motivating thing to help them get through that pain, because it's a lasting pain. It's not something easy, you know, to deal with. And I think there are a lot of us in this country that don't really fully understand what's happening.
Yeah. It's weird because it seemed like where he was distant from it, he healed. Those two gentlemen, it felt like it just happened yesterday to them.
Of course.
And as an adult males, I wish in the world that we would look at these dying malls and turning them into mental health centers where you can go right into an area and get
That's a great idea.
health coverage, you can get
Yes.
child care, you can get mental health care. Like these are all places where people have access to public transportation. It was set up that way.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know why we can't turn it into like life health centers. And
Well, and that's the irony of our political situation in this country right now. It's the absurdity of it. We're so busy, dealing with this big lie, and people are just gaslighting people all over the place. And in the meantime, people are truly suffering.
definitely.
So you have all of these guys and women who claim that they want to be public servants, and we can see straight through that. And we know that they're not. That's not their agenda. It's all self-serving. But I think the main part of it that really angers me is exactly what you just said. Because I know that there are people out there who need help, with mental illness. It's something serious. As a teacher, man, I've learned this over the years. This is more pervasive than we would ever want to really truly admit in our country. And the thing that I've always felt bad about being an educator, I really got upset one day when I realized I'm not trained to even deal with this, and I've had a couple of occasions where I've recognized some things in some students. And luckily, after the first experience, I knew to ask because I was so afraid of infringing on somebody's rights. I knew to ask. I said, hey, man, do you think you want to get some help and talk to somebody? And a couple of times when I did that, the people said yes. So that let me know that they were yearning to try to find solutions to what's going on with them. So I hope at some point, man, this whole Trumpism thing will go away. And even though I know we won't be agreeing on policy, but we can get back to at least debating it honestly, so we can try to find some solutions for people.
Wow, that's a wish.
Yeah.
that's a wish. Yeah,
hey man, you got to dream big.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to wow, that whole thing is it's a shame, the dark money that's attached to people. I always want anyway, I want to really get into your business, but we're having a conversation that when someone's a politician, I wanted to ask them the day that they went in, what was your reason for going in, and what was the day that you decided not to support the public anymore? What was that day?
Right.
Right,
because I don't think they will be able to have an answer for you, because I think it's a gradual shift, because everybody seems to become drunk with power. I remember one time, man, Naris wanted to have us go up on the Hill and talk to them about copyright issues, and man, when you walk around that building, you see why these people fight for these jobs. It's a country unto itself. The basement has great restaurants, dry cleaning, post office. The offices are plush. It's a real cozy environment. I wouldn't want to work there, and I'm not a politician. And I sit there and I look at it, and I'm like, okay, that along with all of the other side money that these guys are making, of course, it's a serious drug. And it's something that people clamor to maintain. But of course, the public will never see that. They don't allow you to see that. We were lucky that, they were walking us through. And when we went down into the basement and saw all of that stuff that was down there, I went, it's like a little city down there.
Yeah, we want to get back into the opera. So it's going to end soon. It's going to, no. Look, I could do this all day. It feels like right now we're afraid to say what's on our mind, because it's just the way it is. But this opera is going to have an end date, and it's too important. So have you created some like touring company setups that it's going to go around America? Has that even been discussed?
Well, it's not going to be a touring company. What it is that all of the opera companies around the country if they pick it up, then they go through a process of auditioning and finding out people's availability. Like this opera is going to Chicago next year, I think in February or March, somewhere around there. And they've already started auditions for that production, you know.
Okay.
Because the thing in the opera world, man, people book out, you know, dates months and years in advance, you know. So it's hard to maintain a certain cast because, you know, everybody becomes busy. So, but with this thing, we know that it's going to Chicago and it's going to Los Angeles. A friend of mine in DC, who's actually one of the original guys that commissioned me in St. Louis, Tim O'Leary, he talked to me about possibly bringing it to the Kennedy Center in DC. And there were some people in Minneapolis who came to the production. They're interested. There's also some people in Germany that are interested. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
Now, I believe that we bumped up this interview because you had a hard interview at 11:45, like something that
Yeah.
you couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got what, 6 minutes?
Okay.
Nah.
Yeah.
So the real reason I called you is, or to talk to you, is about absence, which is the,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, I do jazz radio, you know, it's not.
Okay.
So we got this little,
Yeah.
you know, amazing thing that you did with a tribute to Wayne Shorter.
Mhm.
And wow, I have like 3 or 4 pages to talk about that. So
Yeah.
now the absence in general. Okay, first, I love the album cover. I think
Thank
that
you.
the fist
Oh, it's a
part,
good friend of mine. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
is, it should be the symbol for Black Lives Matter. I feel that
Wow.
I could see that representing something really powerful.
But actually, it's, if you look at it, it's a mangrove. So the idea that's been the symbol for the band, the E Collective, for our last 3 albums. So if you look at it, you see there's 5 roots,
Okay,
and it's all about how the 5 roots come together to create one thing that's stronger.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay, then don't you can't use that then. It's copyright infringement. You were talking about, it's a homage to the amazing Wayne Shorter. You're
Mhm.
talking about absence, and there's a paragraph in your bio talking about what absence is, where you, I guess you, where I read it multiple times, and I'm getting that you define yourself by the absence of what's not within you, or
Yeah.
what is missing, or what
Mhm.
is missing in relationships and
Yeah,
in the
all of
world.
those things. Yeah, I mean, and part of our struggle in life is trying to fill that void. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing when you get to a point in your life. Like now, I have 2 grandkids, and you start to realize your struggle for finding something was right in front of your face the entire time, and it's the love of your family. You know, nothing gives me more joy, man, when I have all of my kids around me. You know, I remember one of my birthdays, we literally didn't do anything. Just everybody just came over to the house, and that's part of the reason why I love that title. It's not my tune; it's David Ginyard's tune. He wrote it, but I understand exactly why he called it that. You know, because you know I'm at a point now in my life where things are the meaning of things are shifting greatly.
Yeah, yeah. It's warmth. It's the soul
Yeah.
warmth. That's what you were
Mhm.
feeling. Your
Yeah.
soul was feeling warm inside. And it felt good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like down to the wire. I Dare You is awesome.
Mhm.
The intro is amazing, and then you rip it right into the full song. It
Mhm.
feels like you're like sampling Beethoven's
I know.
Fifth
You know what?
Symphony.
I didn't realize that, man. You know, it's funny because
It's like
I
a
wrote the
sample.
tune. Yeah, but I wrote the tune first, right?
Mhm.
And then we were at the studio, and I said, "Man, this thing needs an introduction." And then I went to write the introduction based off of the tune. And when I listened to it, I went, this is sounds like Beethoven a little bit. I didn't mean for this to happen like this, but yeah,
It's high.
yeah. Thank you.
It's like a hip hop, like, you know, orchestration. I thought, oh, he's taking Beethoven and spinning it around and kind of sampling it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
song "I Dare You" has a story to it. We got 2 minutes. I'm sorry, but we're gonna
Oh,
play
no,
that
no.
song in the interview.
Okay.
But you know, you also have a quick story about it, and then we're gonna probably have to wrap up.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, there's the whole idea of Wayne Shorter saying jazz means I dare you. It means
Mhm.
to take a chance. And I think, you know, all too often we've gotten complacent with, and because listen, we got a vast history in this jazz world that we really want to keep sacred. I get it, you know, but the tradition of jazz is to break tradition. That's always been our tradition.
Definitely.
And, you know, Wayne has always encouraged me and other people to try to find our voice. So that was the reason why when we did the album, we didn't want to just do an album straight and strictly of Wayne Shorter tunes. We wanted to do a combination of both to show Wayne how much he's had an effect on our lives in terms of composition, and just to show him how much we love him, for sure.
We're going to play that. There was other tracks we wanted to talk about. I'm going to intersperse it within the interview. Got a shout out from Eddie Morgan from Atlantic City. He's a retired school teacher. He knows you. He says he loves you. Yeah. He just saw you at Cape May, Exit Zero. Yeah. I see that you slimmed down. It looks like you're looking good, and it's important because you're ready for the award seasons, because you're gonna be picking up a lot of them. You're gonna be at every award thing, picking up an award somewhere. Including this album. It's fantastic. So
thank you.
It's great to see you again, Terence Blanchard. Thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for joining me on Something Came from Baltimore.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Talk to you later.
All right, man. Take care.